Hey everybody, my name is Cliff Batson. I'm in for CCB, and I have re-recorded the presentation that I made this morning about WCARES Field Day 2020. So let's jump into this thing. The agenda for the presentation. We're going to talk about when and what is Field Day, what we're doing differently this year. We all have to ask ourselves how seriously we want to take this contest, and there are different levels of participation. We'll talk about scoring and how to maximize our score. I'm going to address the things that you should do before Field Day and during Field Day and after the big event. We'll talk about logging contacts and configuring the software, and I'll show you how to submit your logs and info to the ARRL. And finally, there's a resource slide where I can show you some links to some other things. So here we go. Field Day is 1 week from today. That is Saturday the 27th. Starts at 1 p.m. local time and ends 24 hours later. And you can start setting up your station up to 24 hours ahead of the event. Now, those of us who are working from home, hopefully our stations are already ready to go. Those of you who are working from the field, you can set up on Friday afternoon. Now, there is some fine print in Section 3 of the rules that tells you that if you're working portable and you don't set up before the event starts, then you can actually work an extra 3 hours after 1 o'clock. And there's some other things like that. But for the most part, all of us are going to be working from 1 to 1 next Saturday and Sunday with up to 24 hours before that to set up. As far as what is Field Day, the stated objective of the ARRL says, and I've got this broken up into 3 little pieces here, to contact as many stations as possible on all of the work bands and even the high bands above, 6 meters and above, and to learn to operate in abnormal situations in less than optimal conditions. So obviously, contact as many stations as possible, and I interpret that to mean as much time as you want to put into this thing. Most of us are not going to be sitting in that chair for 24 hours. All the bands, there is no there's no bonus for working more bands, but of course, the more bands you work, you would have to think that you're going to make contacts on those other bands. You are only allowed to work a particular station one time on any particular band and mode combination. So to do otherwise is a duplicate and it'll be thrown out. So you might want to work me on 40 meters and then you'll catch me on 80 meters and that you can talk to me again. That'll count as a second contact. But we can't talk on 40 meters twice without that being a duplicate and being tossed. And finally, the last chunk here, to learn to operate in abnormal situations in less than optimal conditions. For a lot of people, they're going to be using Field Day to go out and actually work in the field. It's a lot more fun to work in the field when you're not just by yourself, and with the COVID-19 that we're dealing with right now, probably aren't going to be that many group forays into the field, but doesn't prohibit you from going out there and doing that if that's what you'd like to do. This year, there are a couple of temporary rule waivers that are going to make things more fun for us. First of all, in previous and future field days, you're not allowed for home stations to contact other home stations. This is so that the ARRL can encourage us all to get out of the house and go do our thing away from our lazy home stations. But because of the virus and because a lot of us are at home stations can contact other home stations for points this time. Secondly, those of us who are turning our scores in the club name field, we can put in a club name, and everyone who uses that club name, their points will aggregate for a club score. Now, as Ed would tell you, we're an Aries group. We're not a club. But still, there's the club name field, and as we turn our scores in at the end, if we all put in what you see on the screen here, WCARES-TN, all of us who specify WCARES-TN as the club name, our scores will accumulate and we'll have our score published. Now, like I said this morning in the original presentation, we should not get our hopes up that we're going to produce a high score. There are other clubs out there that have many more members than us, that have more members that are doing HF on a regular basis. So we're going to do fine, and we should try to get a good score. But it's not like it was a couple of years ago when we were going to try to get the highest EOC score in the land, and which we accomplished, by the way. This time we're just competing with all the amateur radio clubs in the U.S. So don't get your hopes up, and let's just go have some fun. So what's different this year? Well, there's no central site. We're not going to go to the EOC and put all our transmitters and antennas within a 1,000-foot diameter circle and transmit like we would normally do. But we are going to have the fun of combining our scores, and the N3FJP software has this really cool feature that lets us, in real time, actually a 3-minute delay, upload our scores to the internet and then produce a single consolidated web page that shows everybody how we're all doing individually, and it computes our aggregated club score. So that's pretty cool. We're also going to try online chat this year via the discord.com site. And that feature I just told you about is going to be really cool to be able just to go see, how many contacts, we've made individually, and what frequency we're currently working, that kind of thing. So I'll show you that in just a little bit as we get further into the presentation. Now, a traditional WCARES Field Day has a lot of moving parts. And, there's all the different antennas for the different stations, and then the personnel, who can work when, who can't work when. We try to get all the bonus points, so that we're trying to copy messages and sending messages and putting out a public information, table and all this kind of stuff. So this little photo right here is actually of a Rube Goldberg device that's a pencil sharpener. So this is what our traditional WCARES Field Day pencil sharpener looks like. This year, it just looks like a pencil sharpener. We're keeping it really simple by not, by just doing our own thing as individuals. Now, just because we're doing things individually doesn't mean that we can't, take this pretty seriously. But there are lots of levels here. And I've listed some just off the top of my head. First of all, there's no obligation for you to actually work Field Day at all. I certainly hope you will, because I'd like for you to do that. It's a lot of fun. Actually, I believe Field Day is about the most fun that you can have in ham radio. It's going to be weird to not be with each other this year. I'd say a lot of the fun that I have at Field Day is just being around and laughing with my ham friends in WCARES. So we're going to kind of miss that a little bit. But, if you have to sit this one out, that's cool. No shame there. Next level I have is just casually. Maybe you're going to work a few contacts and make sure your radio still works, and have some fun with your family and play radio when you can. Next level I've got is short-term serious. Maybe you want to go out in the field and spend a few hours just trying to get as many contacts as you possibly can in a short amount of time, and so you're serious about it, but only for a few hours. Next level here, off the grid, maybe you want to try to run your station off of a battery charged with a solar panel, and maybe go get into a tent and keep the mosquitoes at bay and work at night, and take it kind of more seriously off the grid. Next level I've got here is just the strap me to the chair. This is somebody who wants to work long hours and try to get the maximum score. Now, I do have one more level that I think of as kind of the ultimate competitive level, and I call that Kreth-petitive, named after Tim Kreth, 84CJ. Now, a couple of years ago, this is the actual Field Day creed that he came up with. The greatest pleasure is to vanquish your enemies and chase them before you, to rob them of their wealth and see those dear to them bathed in tears, to ride their horses and clasp to your bosom their wives and daughters. Now, okay, honestly, this is a Genghis Khan quote, but I thought this really reflected the way that Tim runs Field Day at his CW station. And because we're friends, and I didn't want to necessarily blindside him with this humorous little thing, I sent a copy of this slide to Tim yesterday via email and said, hey, I'm going to put this in my presentation unless you want me to kill it. And he wrote me back and said this: Cliff, it doesn't go far enough. I would add, quote, and burn and sack their villages and homes and lay waste to their fields sowing them with salt so that all crops will wither for 80 years. 73 Tim. So if you thought I was kidding about Tim being competitive, no. All right, so during field day, there's 3 things that we key in when we're logging contacts. The call sign of the other station is kind of an obvious one. The other 2 pieces of information are class and section. So what are those? Well, class is the number of transmitters that your station is using at the same time. Normally, it's going to be a 1 for most of us. At WCARES, normal field day, we might have 5 stations running. So, we might be a 5F. Well, that second letter is just a single letter that designates your level of participation, which you'll see in this next slide. So that's the class. And then the section is the geographic area that you're in using the ARRL or the Canadian sections. So here in my slide, I've got, Tennessee, West Central Florida, or the Greater Toronto area. There are abbreviations for all the states and provinces. Obviously, we're all in Tennessee, Tango November. So back to class for a second. Here are the classes. And the ones in yellow are probably the ones that we're going to fall into this year. You have to decide which of these classes based on, whether you want to go out and work portable in the field and so on. So Class A is portable, which means not at home, and a group of 3 or more people not using commercial power. So none of us are going to be Class A. Class B is portable with 1 or 2 people not using commercial power. So if you want to take your radio out to the field and work, you'll get a lot of points, more points by doing it that way, especially if you're running 5 watts or less, but we'll get to that. Class C, mobile. If you're running field day out of your car, exclusively out of your car, then you're Class C. Class D are for those of us who are lazy and just want to work on commercial power from our home station. Class E is the same thing, except that we're running on generators or batteries, some kind of emergency power. Class F, the final class, is what WCARES is. It's an EOC station, but of course, because of the virus, we're not doing that this year. So you have to decide, which of these categories you fall into. I'm probably going to be Class D and just be a lazy bum here in my air-conditioned office. So we'll see. As far as scoring goes, the formula for determining your score is the total number of QSO points times the power multiplier that's based on how much power you're putting out, plus whatever bonus points you earn. So QSO points, phone, sideband, phone, or FM, if you're in the higher bands, you can do that. That only gets 1 point per contact, whereas CW or digital gives you 2 points. So as far as power goes, if you're transmitting using batteries, no commercial power, not even any generator, just battery power at 5 watts or less, then you can multiply your QSO points times 5. If you're transmitting 150 watts or less, I've got here not on batteries, but that doesn't really even matter. If you're transmitting 150 watts or less, there's a 2x multiplier. And if you're transmitting more than 150 watts, and I've included the name of the only person I can think of that would do that, and I love you, Jack. That's just a kind of an inside joke. You don't get a power multiplier at all. You just multiply your QSO points by 1. And as far as bonus points goes, there are a lot of ways to earn bonus points. I'm going to flip over to a presentation that Carl did a couple of years ago, 2018, when we had such a great year. This slide has the bonus points. So, you get 100 points if you run an emergency power. If you send a copy of a press release to the media, you can get 100 points for that. If you're, setting up in a public place, you can get 100 points for doing that. So there's a bunch of these things, and some of these are things that are just makes more sense if you're in a group situation. Like, for example, a Get on the Air station, that is intended for introducing people to ham radio. So in a situation like that, you've got a big group outing, and you've got people coming in like Boy Scouts or whatever to have their first radio experience. Some of those kind of things you just aren't going to be able to do. Some of them are just more, obviously geared toward having a group, ham event versus our individual things. But you can get hundreds of points of bonus points if you'll do some of these things for a little extra work. I will tell you, though, that when you do these extra things, you have to document them. And when we look at how to upload the stuff to the the ARRL website, you'll have to upload photographs or other things to prove that you actually did this extra work. All right, back over to my slides. So that's what scoring is all about. As far as how to increase your score, obviously, making the most contacts possible, is going to be a big deal. CW contacts do count twice as much as phone. Of course, digital also gives you 2 points per contact, and that does seem great, but there are fewer stations running digital during field day than CW or phone. So if you decide you're just going to run digital, you should not expect to get as many points as if you were running Morse code. There's just more Morse code stations out there to talk to. You will run out of people to talk to if you're doing digital. Middle of the screen there just shows an example. If I run a Morse code station on battery power and I make 100 contacts, I'm going to get 1,000 points for that because I get 2 points per contact. So out of 100 points times 2, that's 200 points. Then I have a multiplier of 5 for my power multiplier. So that's 1,000 points versus if I'm just running sideband and I'm running 100 watts, let's say, I'm going to only get 200 points. So that's like a 5 times the points for somebody running QRP-CW versus just running a typical 100 watt sideband thing. So if you can do CW, that's a really good way to increase your score over somebody who's not. But you should do everything you can do. If you can do sideband and digital, you should definitely do that. If you can do CW, you should still do sideband. The very last thing here, just again to iterate that you can pick up hundreds of bonus points if you're willing to do the work, and don't forget to document that. All right, so before the big day, there's a checklist of things that you might want to do. I recommend that you do use the N3FJP logging software. This is the software that we've used for WCARES for years and years. It's only $8.99 if you don't have it already. If you do have it, you can update to the latest version, which is 6.3, for free. You should definitely use the latest version, 6.3, because there's a new Prince Edward Island section, and there's it allows you to for Class D stations to work other home stations without getting yelled at in the software. So definitely upgrade to 6.3. You will want to, if you can, do the second thing on the list here, which is to configure your CAT interface, your computer-aided transceiver interface, so that the logging software can poll your radio to find out for each contact what band and mode you are using and what frequency that contact was made on. If you don't do this, you can still be okay. You can still just remember to keep your band and mode set correctly in the N3FJP software. However, if you forget to do that and switch bands, now all of a sudden you're starting to log contacts, but you've got the wrong band and mode set potentially. And when you do realize that you've had this wrong, you'll have to go back and try to figure out which contacts were made on the old band. And I've done this, I've been there, done that, and much better to go ahead and configure the software to talk to your radio if you can. If you're running Morse code, you're going to want to go ahead and configure the keyboard macros so that N3FJP can transmit Morse code for you. It makes it a lot more efficient. I do recommend everybody to configure the web upload contest status. That's the cool feature that lets you upload your statistics up to the internet so that we can all see each other's stats as we're going. And I'll show you how to do that later in this presentation. You should create a Discord account at discord.com. That's the platform we're using for our live chat. And that's really going to be fun. We'll be able to kind of keep track of with each other and encourage each other and trash talk each other, whatever we want to do. But it's going to be a really neat way, I think, to stay in touch in this separated environment we're going to be in. There is a special link after you create your Discord account, if you click this special link, it will give you access to the WCARES server so that you can see the WCARES chat rooms. One of those is for Field Day. You should definitely do that and go check out that. It's really simple. The user interface for this Discord thing is drop dead simple. Basically, it's just like sending text messages on your phone. You just, type in something and hit enter, and you're interacting with everybody else who's on the channel at the time. Definitely read the Field Day rules. Everybody should go look at the Field Day rules and read them. It takes you probably 15 minutes or so to read all the rules, but there's good information in there that you're going to want to know, so you don't break any of those rules. We all have to determine the class for the event. Am I going to not be lazy and actually go out into the field and work? Maybe I will, but I've got to get my head around what that means and what equipment I'm going to take and all that. So that's something we all have to kind of do and gauge for ourselves. Definitely check your antennas before the big day. You don't want to get ready to transmit and find out that your SWR is through the roof or that your coax has a problem or something. So definitely check that out beforehand. Get your station ready, including whatever power source. If you're going to be running off batteries, make sure you've got enough batteries and that they're charged. And finally, on my list here, to brush up on your operating techniques, go to YouTube and just look for Field Day videos and listen in on some of the QSOs and the operator techniques that are being used. You might find somebody who's doing things a little more efficiently than you would have thought to do otherwise. During the big day, before we start next Saturday, definitely make sure to check your computer's clock to make sure that your computer is displaying the correct date and time. I failed to do this a few years ago, and my entire log for my CW station, a WCARES CW station, all of the times were off by a few hours, and Hilton Dean thankfully was able to jump in there and save the day by running some utility program that just applied a correction factor to all the date times. So shout out to Hilton there. Make sure that your logging software is working properly before the contest starts. If you've entered some just kind of test contacts to make sure it's working okay, you can delete them, before the contest begins or after, but don't forget to delete those things. Be sure to use your own call sign. A lot of us have the N4FR call sign, locked in our brains from previous field days, but this year we're using our own call signs. Do take advantage of the online chat. We're using the Discord, chat room app and talk to other WCARES members. You can, post text. You can also take pictures and post those on there. We're going to have just like a kind of a scrolling party online where everybody can just get in there and chat and talk to each other. I think it should be fun. And last thing on my list here is do go out to the web page at wcares.live. That's where you'll be able to see this consolidated web page with everybody's scores, and it also has the group score. One thing that's not on this list that I probably should have put on there is go out and go up to 10 meters. I think it's between 28.192 megahertz and 28.3 megahertz. There's a bunch of beacons. Now, these are like, low-powered stations that are just sitting there transmitting their call signs in Morse code. But if you hear these beacons, and you can use software, if you're not a Morse code person, you can use an app on your phone or whatever to decode that CW. If you hear these beacons as you're tuning through that range of frequencies up below 28.3, you will discover that there's going to be some openings, and if you find some openings in those beacons, that means that it's possible to make some 10-meter contacts and maybe 15-meter and 20-meter contacts. Of course, 20 meters is going to be open all day anyway, probably. But anyway, definitely check that out. One more thing that's not on here, Andrew Gossett had a great idea, which is we should probably create a little schedule of when to be listening for each other on different bands. I'll put that together, but we'll do something like, say, at 4:30, everybody go up to 10 meters, and a certain frequency on 10 meters, and look to see, who is there. Maybe you can make some contacts. We can talk to each other and work each other on all these different bands. If there's 30 or 40 of us doing this, and we all do that, that's 30 or 40 contacts times each of the bands that we work. So it's definitely a worthwhile thing to do. And I will I don't have it in this presentation, but I'll put that together and I'll include it in an email that I send out to you. Also, I sent you an email a week ago or so that has a link to a Google Doc that I've created. I'll put that in the Google Doc. That Google Doc is kind of a repository for all the information for Field Day. And I'll also include a link to that document in the next email that I send everybody. Okay, after Field Day, there's two things. You have to take all your contacts and use your N3FJP software or whatever software. Technically, you could do this on paper, but don't use paper. If you are a tech-savvy person who's savvy enough to be watching this presentation on your computer, you are savvy enough to create an electronic submission for the ARRL. N3FJP will let you export a Cabrillo format log file or a dupe sheet. I recommend the dupe sheet option because it also builds a summary of all the number of contacts per band and mode, which you will want to key in when you submit your scores. So it's already done for you, and it's a really great way to get that summary information without having to calculate it yourself. Second thing is you're going to use the web app. ARRL has a web page that gives you a form where you can submit all your information and upload your proof of bonus points and your log or dupe sheet. So those are the two things you need to do after we get finished with Field Day. All right, let's talk logging. So again, I do recommend N3FJP. That's the software that WCARES has used forever. If you've ever worked, a WCARES Field Day, you've used that software. You're already familiar with it. It is easy to use. It's full-featured, and it produces the files that you're going to need to submit. So you might as well go ahead and use it. It's $8.99. Like I mentioned earlier, you can get it there at n3fjp.com. On the home page of the website, there's actually a Field Day picture on the right-hand side of the screen. It'll take you to this fieldday.html page. And of course, the N3FJP also includes this cool feature that will let you upload your stats so we can see each other's stuff live, which will look like this. This blue screen is what this consolidated basic web page looks like. When all of us are uploading our scores, there's a program that will run here at my house that will go up into that FTP folder and get all the information from it and then build this consolidated web page and upload that to the WCARES.live website. So all you have to do is just configure your software, N3FJP software, which I'm going to show you in just a second, and then you'll be able just to keep a browser open to this window, WCARES.live, all weekend. The page refreshes every 60 seconds, so you don't even have to refresh the page. You just keep it up or swap over to it every now and then. You'll see the updated stuff. So also, each one of these call signs here are actually live links. So when you're looking at this page and you're seeing, other call signs, you might say, "Oh, I wonder what Cliff's doing." So you can click on my call sign, and when you do that, it's going to show you this page, a page that looks like that. It's going to show you, my current stats and then my most recent contacts. It'll even show you the frequency that my last contact was made on. So if you're curious about where I'm working and you want to go look and say hi to me, that's the way you would do that. Very cool. I'm going to go back to where I was. So to configure the N3FJP software to do this web upload contest status, it's really kind of easy. There's some things to type in, which I'm going to show you on the next slide. But all you have to do is to go to the settings menu, and then the submenu is called Web Upload Contest Status. And then you're going to get a form like this. Now, forget all of this gobbledygook on the right-hand side. All that's just an explanation of what all this does and how to use it. It's really an email that's been thrown into this big text box. What you need to do is just type in the things here. So in the top where it says call, club, or group name, just put in your call sign. And then this place here has a place for you to put a message that everybody will see when they go look at your individual scores. And that is here. I've got this message here that says, I'll be around if anybody needs help with anything this weekend. It's got my phone number and it's got my email address. But if you want to put out a message out there, that's the place where you type the message in. This checkbox means, hey, I want to upload this web page of my stats to the following site, and everybody's going to use this same FTP service. So FTP://wcares.live/ the username for the FTP is WCARESFTP@WCARES.live. The hosting site password is just lowercase WCARES. And for the file name that it's going to write to up on that FTP server, use your call sign .html. So for me, it's n4ccb.html. It's going to upload your stats by default here every 3 minutes, and it's going to show your most 10 recent contacts. You can change those, but why? Just leave it. Make sure you check this Enable Automatic Upload checkbox. Otherwise, you can just go and manually click the Upload Now button every time you want to go update it. But just leave it checked here, so it'll just every 3 minutes in this case go automatically upload your stats. Once you configure these 5 things here, these 5 things that are actually 4 things, after you type this stuff in, go down here to the Upload Now button and click that, and that will send it up to the FTP server. And then you look here on the status line and you'll see a success message. If you don't get a success message, it means that you've probably fat-fingered something here. So make sure that you fill this stuff out and try it again. If you want to see what everybody else is going to see after you upload your stuff, this blue link right here that says View HTML file on hard disk, hard drive. If you click that link, it's going to show you this page, and this is what everybody's going to see if they click on your name on our consolidated web page. So this is all there is to configuring N3FJP to upload your stuff to the FTP server. All right, Discord. So Discord.com is a chat platform. You can go create a free account there, and then afterwards there's a link. And the link is shown here on this slide, but I'll also include it in the email that I send out. It was actually in the last email that I sent when I sent you a link to that Google Doc. But I'll put it in the email that's going to go out to everybody. After you set up a free account, you'll click on this link, and that will grant you access forever to the WCARES quote-unquote server. And that server gives us text channels or chat rooms. And currently we've got these 5: general, field day, help needed, for sale, and on the air right now. Figuring that we might use this for other things besides field day. On the actual field day, we'll all be typing into this field day chat room, talking to each other. But definitely go to discord.com and set up your free account. It's going to be fun. This is what it looks like. Once you log in, you'll have your Discord account, and over here on the left, you'll have whatever servers that you want to connect to. This is what the server looks like for WCARES, and you just click that, and now you'll have these text channels. And so you click Field Day, and now it's going to be a scrolling list of conversations going on. Now, this is not like a user forum. It's not like there are threads, and you can drill down into these topics and see what people said about these topics. This is more like just, using text messages on a big group, text on your phone. The message is just going to scroll endlessly, and there's no way to just, have a certain topic and do that. You might be able to use hashtags to do some things and search for hashtags, but, I don't see us doing that on this event. But that's what Discord's all about. All right, now after the event's over, there is a form. If you go to ARRL and look at the field day information there's a link to this web app that's shown right here. And you're going to go to that and fill out the form and upload your contacts. You're going to upload your contacts in the form of that, Cabrillo or Cabrillo, I'm not sure which, but that formatted log, or you're going to use this to upload your dupe sheet. N3FJP can export both of these. So whether it's the Cabrillo form log or whether it's a dupe sheet, I suggest the dupe sheet, as I said earlier, because it's going to give you the summary information that's going to make filling out this table easier that you're about to see. So I've broken this kind of long scrolling form into 4 chunks, and here's the first chunk. So at the top of the screen, You're going to put in your call sign, and you're going to choose your section, which is going to be Tennessee. This is the place where you're going to type in WCARES-TN, all uppercase. This is club or group name field. By typing in WCARES-TN, all of us who do that, our scores are going to combine. So make sure you do that so that WCARES will have the benefit of the scores that you're including here, that you contribute. Here's where your entry class is. As this says, check all that apply. And here's your power multiplier. Check whichever one you've got here. And so this is all for the first chunk of this screen. The second piece is the bonus points. So you can see, as I said earlier, there's a lot of different ways to earn bonus points. And some of these require you to upload some kind of documentation, whether it's a photograph. Excuse me, my mouse just scrolled here. Whether it's a photograph of your public information table, for example, or whether it's a press release for your media publicity press release. The ones that say choose file over here are the ones that you do have to provide information on to prove that you did earn those points. Third piece, this is that table I was telling you about where the dupe sheet gives you the summary information that allows you just to key in all this directly. So, for each one of these bands, you're going to say how many QSOs you had and what your power level was on each one of these different modes for each one of these bands. And this over here where it says choose file, this is how you're going to actually go and pick the file name on your hard drive to upload to the ARRL to prove your contacts. The last thing here is just for the GOTA stations. You're not going to have a GOTA station. We do when we're doing our big event, our big group event, but you're not going to have a get on the air station. So you don't need to worry about that. That is the presentation. The last thing I have here is just this resource slide. I'll include all of these links in the email that I send you that's going to have a link to this YouTube video for this presentation. These links are also going to be found in the Google Doc that I'll send you a link to, that I already did send you a link to, but I'll send it again. I took a few questions this morning when I did the presentation the first time. One of those questions was from Adam, who asked about the duplicates. So one of the rules is that you can only work one station, you can only work a station one time for each band and mode. Well, if we're going to be combining our scores, obviously we're all going to be talking to the same stations out there. So Adam's asking, what happens if we've, say 30 of us have all talked to the same station? Are they going to remove those? Well, no. The ARRL is not going to worry about that. We still have the dupe rule in that we all can't, work one station twice on a single band and mode, just like always. But as far as combining our scores, it's okay if we've all worked the same stations. That's not a problem. I guess I should also say here that there's a rule, I think it's 6.1, that says that you can't say you're a WCARES member and we have a WCARES station. We can't as individuals go back home and contact the WCARES station for points if we're participating in the WCARES event. I asked the ARRL if that meant that those of us who are going to combine our scores could not work each other. And they wrote me back and said, no, don't worry about that. So we can all talk to each other. That's not a problem. Not going to count as a duplicate. It's not going to count as breaking the rules. So don't worry about that. I guess that's it. You're going to see this in an email, and you're going to have a description field with my email address in it probably. If you have any questions, certainly shoot me an email. I check my email with the frequency of a monkey on crack cocaine. So I will get back to you pretty quickly. Certainly you can call me as well. But good luck. We're going to have a lot of fun, and I can't wait. And I hope to talk to you on the air, everybody. Take care. See ya.